Well, hey there, YouTube. It's Petey, and do you want to see my collection? This is one of my tubs that has 18650 batteries in it. So these are recycled lithium-ion cells that we get from Goodwill, and these batteries are, this is what's in a Tesla. There's a whole bunch of them in the Tesla. A whole bunch of these batteries, which just goes to show the ingenuity of that guy, Elon Musk, is really something. So, who would think, oh, I'm going to put 5,000, or I have no idea how many of those batteries are in a Tesla, but it's a ridiculous amount. The entire chassis is full of them. Anyway, this is how we get them. We get them in a laptop power pack. Today I found this at a Goodwill. It did not have a price tag on it. It seems like a lot of the stuff that I want to buy at the Goodwill doesn't have a price tag, and usually the people are pretty good about it. Today it was like I had a drill and a charger, a cordless drill. This one here, and the charger, and none of it had price tags on it. And then this, so it was three things. Then there was a jar. I had a mason jar. Now I had two mason jars. One of them had a 99-cent sticker on it, so they charged us 99 and then another 99 for the other one, which is a great deal for a mason jar. But this is how I get these, and what I'm going to do in this video, it's going to be a long chatty video, but we're going to harvest the batteries out of here. Notice the first thing I'm doing is putting on leather gloves, because this is something we do need to protect our hands. Besides breaking this open, this plastic chassis, it's kind of a gonzo approach. There's no fasteners, and this is a triple stack. There's 3 rows, which is rare. Usually they're just 2. And typically with the double stack, I can just kind of. But we will get into it. What we're going to do today, we're going to harvest these batteries, pop them in a charger. This is the charger for this thing, this drill. This is a 12-volt Performax brand lithium-ion rechargeable screwdriver. Now, I shouldn't have bought this. Honest to God, the reason I bought this was because I'm really weird about stuff like this going to a landfill. I have so many cordless drills. I've got 2 of these. Both of these Ryobis, I had to replace the battery in it. And then I've got, I think we have 4 red ones. I have 2 that are like this, and then another one that's a little different brand. I only have 1 charger for those, and I think 2 of these I've replaced the 18650 lithium-ion battery. Now this, see this thing, like, why would I need it? Well, when you're doing this type of work, like let's say I'm doing woodwork. I'm building a little cabinet for an amplifier or speaker cabinet, and I do this stuff constantly. If you were to come here, you wouldn't believe what our apartment really looks like, the amount of stuff that we have. And a lot of it is stuff that I built. Now, what I like to do is have one drill with a pre-drill bit, meaning a small diameter drill bit to drill the first hole, and then my larger 18-volt Ryobi drill, which is here, would have the Phillips bit in it to drive the screw in. Now I also use a countersink, like a Forstner bit, a countersink, like sometimes like a roundy thing that'll like bore it out. So the screw doesn't stick out. You can, there'll be, if you bore it out with a Forstner bit, you can countersink. There'll be like a millimeter gap. And then you can fill that in if you want to be real fancy about it. It usually 3 or 4 drills is about the record for me running them. And the thing about these is these don't work for that woodworking. They don't have the torque, These run on a single 18650 cell, and that's really not enough torque to drive a screw in. I mean, maybe you could do some drilling, but really not. So that's why I purchased this. Now, I know I look like I had removed the price tag off of it. You see here, I did not. And the lady was like, oh, you have another thing with no, and I was like, yeah, I do have another thing. Come out and look on your floor at how much shit isn't priced, lady. And honey, is it always not me that has the stuff with no price tag on it?
Okay, that question was a double negative, I think.
I don't take price tags off. If I was going to take a price tag off, I'd put one back on it. But I don't do that. Now, this red light means that these batteries are dead. Okay? This is supposed to be blinking. See, it goes into green mode, and then it's red. Now, it's one of two things. Either the drill itself is fucked. The drill is, the motor is toast. Excuse my French. I shouldn't. Or these batteries are dead. So how I'm going to determine that is I've got this multimeter here with my big oversized gloves. Looks like I'm going to space. And we're gonna put the meter Please, Lord, don't show any voltage here. I'm going to really look like a goof. Yes, it's dead. It's dead. So what we're going to be doing today, and this may end up being a multi-part. I just thought it would be fun to take you guys along on a journey. Like, let's say maybe you were there at the Goodwill when I was checking the stuff out, and you happened to see that I was buying it, and me making all these claims about there not being a price tag and about how the batteries are dead. Well, they are dead. And what I'm going to do, I am going to remove these batteries out of here. We're going to put those in a charger, and I'm going to take some of my freshly charged ones. We're going to open this up, and we're going to pop 3, I believe it's 3. We're gonna fill this up. We're gonna put it back together, and see, that's the hard part, because they don't use wire to interconnect the batteries. It's little strips of metal, and it's kind of, the metal bends when you gotta, like, it's like pop spot riveted on, and there's no way to remove it except to get in there and gorilla. Use brute force, and like you kind of grab this metal tab and roll it over with or maybe a needle nose. You like roll this metal tab off the battery, and then you got to like unroll that and try to solder it onto this fresh battery. So when you end up with it, it's always a little bigger and a little jankier than when it came from the factory. So hopefully I'll be able to squeeze all this shit back in here. Now, I'm the only one on the planet Earth who would do this. And I knew, like, I have enough drills. I really do. See, this one's a little different. It's a 12 volter. I will use it, but it was almost like I didn't want to buy it. And I really didn't want to pay $10 for it. But I knew they wouldn't sell it to me for anything less. So I had to tell them, like, I'll take it off your hands for $10, but I'm going to be doing you a favor. But they know they could just sell it to some goof who doesn't know how the LEDs and the charger work and thinks he can, oh, hey, dog, I'll go home and smoke my blunt and put the charger on and chill, and then check it in a couple of weeks. And no. So, yeah, the only other thing, and now I'm completely like I smoked the blunt, rubbernecking, breaking a sweat. Oh, here it is. That's the bad thing about working when you're sitting down. I've got this flappity flap, flip flap, wibbity wet, and we're going to have to take care of that. So first off is a little bit of, this is urine that it's baby urine from a Nordic child. It's rubbing alcohol that I spray on here, and I like to lick it first. I like to see what it tastes like. See, this is a nice little drill. It's got a torque setting, high speed or lower speed and lower torque, and then it's got an adjustable clutch, which I'll never use that, and then of course reverse, and there's some kind of little LED light here. I don't know. This little piece here, this little flap here that's sticking up, that I will probably I don't want to cut it off. I'm going to try to glue this is what I'm going to try to do. So first up, I guess this will be I'm going to do this in parts because nobody's going to want to sit around for a 4-hour video. So this is the first section of this video. We're just going to put some super glue on here, and so I'm just running the super glue along the bed where this little, hey hon,
Yeah.
masking tape.
Okay.
And I don't normally bark orders at my significant other without warning her. Like I'll say, listen, I'm going to be working, and if I get thank you, baby.
I gave you an assortment.
And usually, if I'm bitchy like that, I usually say you did a good job, right?
Yeah.
Don't I always try to make up for it a little bit? I try not to be too big of a tyrant. So this is the part where I put the super glue on and we tape this up. There's this other knob that's peeling off that's really really kind of bothersome, I would say. So I'm gonna try to glue that down. This is right up by the trigger. And my older brother, when I was a kid, this was before we moved. To be honest with you, I think I was in kindergarten when this happened. He called me out into the alley and he said, what I need you to do, don't look, just jam your hand into this garbage can full of garbage as fast and as hard as you can. And I did, and he had put a broken 7-Up bottle in it, and it cut my finger to the bone. And I have a scar on the leading edge of my finger that I hurt myself there constantly. Like it's about twice a week I'll do that, and that's it's a consistent reminder of like who I am. You know, I mean, he's my brother. I've got that in me too. Although I had a younger brother that I never once picked on him or told him to stick his hand into it. a garbage can full of broken glass. Never did that. But so that's a constant reminder to try to do the right thing. You know, it could go both ways in life. And this looks like this is gonna. I'm glad that I've got my roto rips. And I said we were just gonna. I lied. So basically here, I've got these roto rips. It's a glorified channel locks is what it is, and I can kind of start ripping at the plastic in any way that I can to access the precious cargo that's in here. Now the thing about this is you can puncture these batteries, and when you do, there's a brilliant flash of light, and I believe that's it for the entire universe. It's game over. So we don't want to go in and pry on it. You got to kind of use your. Maybe I should call my brother and ask him to come over here and jam his hand and. So here we've got at the business end of her, and you do want to be aware that, like I've got a tin can down here. In case this were to short and explode, like this is really dangerous what I'm doing here. Like right now, there's a circuit board that's by a wire. Now I just bent that to get that out of the way. You really don't want any of this stuff shorting out. This is the dangerous part. So now I've got it. This is the precious cargo. Okay. So at this point, we really. I have no need for this charging circuit. I can buy these on AliExpress. So I'm just going to cut this off and throw it in my can. I've got this. It's a tin, like an old style Folgers coffee mug. Now here, I'm using my my snips, and I just cut. You can see there's that triangle of metal tape. That's the wire. Rather than wire these together, they've used the system where the metal tape serves to make the connections. And then there is cellophane tape to help keep this stuff together. So now, here's a little wire here. We want to kind of get that out of there. We don't want anything really shorting. I'm going to leave the nub on there, though. I'm going to resist the urge to cut the nub off. That'll give me something to grab at. So, typically, when you get these packs, you know, you'd think, oh, well, at least one of the batteries is not going to be good. Like there's a reason that they threw it out. But I'm amazed because you charge them up and they're rarely, very, very, very rarely is it like, oh, that was a dud for a reason. They're always good. So here's what you're left with, the chassis. That's obviously garbage. And then what I'm going to do at this point, I usually use a needle nose. But this linesman pliers, I got these from Goodwill, and they're Sears, and they're shiny now, but they were fouled and rusted out when I got them. Now this is not grabbing. I really need my needle nose. Okay, so I don't know where the needle nose pliers went. Can you see them? Maybe they fell down. See, I'm a little bit, like I'm sitting here in the living room and I've got access at
by your mouse.
arm's reach. I've got 4 needle nose pliers and I don't know where they are. Where's my needle nose, honey? Where is it? As you can see, I've been married a long time, and how long have we known each other, honey?
34 years.
My wife and I, we met each other working in retail. Is that okay if I tell this story?
You could just say that we met in retail. What? There's not much to the story, I don't think.
Well, the place that we worked.
No, I can say the place that we worked.
My wife and I, we worked at a store called Venture, which was like Walmart, before they had a Walmart. There was Venture. It was classier than Kmart. You know, Kmart had a reputation that it was for Polacks, you know, back in the 70s.
I don't think that was the case. Store in Chicago.
Yeah, and I think somebody's Polish.
Well, you don't know how many viewers you have that it could be Polish too.
So now what you're left behind is these, there's little pokies that stick up. And rather than mess with them and try to sand them off, I will tamp them down with the lineman's pliers. I'll just use the side of the lineman's pliers to get them flat, and I will just be aware. Don't run your hand across your, and later on we will be applying solder to both sides of this. I like to put solder on my 18650Ns. I get silly with it, and the secret to my success is my Berry whip. I've got my OTs, previously known as Harvey's brand Plumber's Flux. Not for electronics, but petey. It's way the electronics flux. You can get a little pen with a little bit in there, a little tiny bit of flux, electronics flux, and it'll be in like a pen. You gotta like take this cap off, like push this little thing in, a little drop, bean comes out, and it's like $17.95 for that pen with like a quarter of an ounce in it. Then you can get a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket full by this company called Harvey's Plumber's Flux. Harvey was he was drinking the good stuff. He was a plumber, and that company Harvey's got bought out by this OT's, so they don't make Harvey's Plumber's Flux anymore. But we had a neighbor who was a plumber. This guy Willie, and he was like a real man's man. He kind of had he had a bunch of tattoos, but like this was back before people had sleeves and stuff. They just had a couple of tattoos. But he was like a kind of a built dude, and he was an alcoholic. He was a beer alcoholic, which is the best kind. And he had kind of like a motley crew of like burnout type people that kind of looked up to him in the area. And so I got to know that guy as a friend. See, these are not registering in my charger. This has never happened. And I go, oh, yeah, they always work. I've never had it where they don't work. And then here they are, duds. But yeah, Willie, I was over there with him, drinking. And he goes, let me ask you a question. We're drinking at like noon. And he goes, when you're doing all this electronic shit, because at the time, I had a project, we had a pedal boat. that I found on the day that Princess Diana died. And we used to go out on it all the time on the Des Plaines River. We would do a 19.5-mile run, one way, from Harlem Avenue, which is called Stony Ford, to 135th Street in Romeoville, which is Isla Cache. And I filled that pedal boat with unnecessary electronics. So it had a sound system, like an automotive sound system with a kicker box. It was unbelievably loud. And that was the thing. You would sit on this pedal boat and it would just basically blow your eardrums out, which was fun. It was nothing like the boat. That was some of the funnest times of my life. So yeah, I was kind of bragging about my setup with this boat that has all these flashing lights, horns, a PA system. We had video games, color TV. We had a slot car track on the back of the boat with a color monitor, color camera. It's like a security camera. Oh, okay. We got one. We got one that's taking a charge. Oh, only one out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 so far. So, yeah, after bragging to this guy, I'm over there and he goes, let me ask you something. You're doing all this soldering. When you're soldering this stuff, are you using any flux? And I had never heard of flux. I always just soldered dry. And the thing about soldering, the solder doesn't really want to stick. Unless you have both of the surfaces that you're trying to have the solder stick to up to the proper temperature, it's really difficult, and that's difficult to do. It's very challenging. Now, if you apply this flux, it's an acidic chemical, and hey, we got another one. All we need is 3. Man, what a letdown. And how about it? When we do this, we're never throwing them away.
No, yeah, that's rare.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's happened. You know what we'll do? We'll have to there's that one where you jimmy it. You keep popping it. I have one charger, and if you keep tapping it, it'll all of a sudden do something to the battery where the battery decides that it wants to take a charge. But that's kind of a difficult thing to find. It's in a pile of junk over here, so I'll have to do that on another day. Now, getting back to my story for the 4th time. He goes, I said, no, I've never heard of flux. And he goes, go get your shit. Seriously, go get your fucking soldering iron and wire. He said, go get 3 different kinds of wire, because that's the hard thing is if you have the same type of wire, let's say they're both, the same strand of copper wire, and it's clean and everything, it's not really that challenging if it's, a thin gauge wire. If you're talking like some real thick copper strand on one end and then like some goofy stainless steel looking, there's some other that's not copper, it's gonna give you a little bit more of a challenge. So I went home, I got my soldering iron, I got my solder and a bunch of different types of wire, and then he proceeded to demonstrate. He put this stuff on there. He was using Harvey's Plumber's Flux. And he's like, you go to Home Depot, any hardware store in America, and it's all over the plumbing aisle. And it was like 99 cents for a little metal tub full of this magical salve. It almost looks like something you'd put on a wound or a cut. It's like Vaseline, but it's a little darker color, like an amber color. And once Willie showed me, go get your shit, and I had to go home while we're drinking. I have never soldered without plumber's flux since then. And every time I go on the internet and admit, I got all these people who went to DeVry or, school for electronics. They're like, don't do what Petey does. But in my defense, I've got all of these bottles of naphtha or 92% rubbing alcohol, and I hose it. Whatever you put the flux on, I'll hose it down, and I'll use a wire brush. I got all kinds of. I'm silly. I'll clean this stuff off. I don't. It's like the whole thing with the plumber's flux being bad news. Okay, so we got four. We got 4 red lights, and we got 4 green lights. She charged me $4 for this, which, to be honest, it's really only worth 2. But I might be able to get these other batteries to work. I never tried hit them with 12. Hit them with 12 volts. I wonder if that. So have I tortured you guys enough? It's a half hour in. I think I'm gonna stop this part of the video, and we're gonna come back. You learned all about Willie, the plumber. I just wanted to be clear on this, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send this video to Goodwill Corporate and complain. Anyway, we got 4 batteries that I'm gonna have to ask my assistant to take these and put these where I can't see them. I got 4 in the charger. We've got 3 over here. I can pick 3 identical batteries out. That'll be what I'll want to do. When we tear this down and look in here, I'll have to maybe look up. It says 1.5 AH. That's amp hour. So in the next video, I'm going to take this apart, and we're going to replace these batteries with some already charged 18650s and get this drill going again. This cost me $4 plus 10, $14, so I could make this video, which is going to eat up my whole. Is it Friday?
Yeah.
Friday night. Can you believe what my existence has trickled down into? All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me on this one. I'm sorry I just yammered and yammered and yammered. That's how long it takes. You can try to go faster, and I had my gloves off, which I felt some moisture, and I thought for sure it was blood. If you ever try to do this, what I'm doing, this metal is razor sharp. It's razor sharp. So don't do what Petey did. Wear your gloves when you're playing around with this stuff, because you will get, and the cuts that you get from that stuff they're not fun cuts. They're little tiny razor cuts that are irritable. All right, you guys, I'll be back in a minute. Thank you so much for joining me on this one. Hey, Zach. Thank you. I'll see you in the next video, maybe, if you don't hang yourself or turn the gas on and blow the pilot out.